I'll give an overarching theme. I became an athlete, right? At the time, because I think this is a good story for everybody to know, I was 15, 16 years old. My brother, who was still alive at the time, he was a wrestler. And I always wanted to be like my brother. He went on to be a Marine. He was just a savage. And so I was like, I want to be a savage too. And in New Jersey, wrestling, we talked about this off screen, wrestling was a big deal. And I knew that if I could become a wrestler, it would increase my conversion rate of women. Like I would be more attractive. I would be, maybe Nick could get a girlfriend, even the guy with no legs and arm, right? It's like, if I could become an athlete, that would help my identity. And so at the time, my right arm was about 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was growing faster than my skin. So it was super sensitive, and the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. That's how sensitive it was. And I remember coming home one day, and I sat both my parents down, and I said, listen, I want to become a wrestler. And the first thing that my mom said was, absolutely not. You're going to hit your arm, your bone's going to come through your skin. What are you going to do then? And I looked at my parents in their eyes, and I looked at them, and I said, we need to cut my arm off. And like, what do you mean cut your arm off? I was like, there's got to be a way. But that's how much pain I was in. Let me just anchor this for the audience. That's how much pain I was in, that I was willing to do whatever it takes to get out of the fire and into a cooler place. And I know people listening right now, some of you are so deep into the fire that you're going to find a way to cool off. You either burn or you figure it out, and I can assure you, when humans are about to burn, they figure it out. And so my parents accepted my offering of cutting my arm off, but not myself. We went to the doctors, we found some of the greatest doctors, and they amputated my arm. So they cut 5 inches of my shorter limb off. Wow. So I could become a wrestler. And just imagine a man with no legs but arm going back to school with, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my family or friends. I didn't tell I didn't tell teachers. And I came back to school. They're like, what'd you do? I'm like, I cut my arm off. And they said, why? And I said, I'm going to become a wrestler. And that was the level, or that is the level of delusion, optimistic delusion that you need in order to get through life, become successful, become someone. And so I cut my arm off. I became a wrestler, happiest kid that just cut his arm off, said no one ever. And I became a wrestler. And I don't know how deep you want to dive into identity and all that stuff, but wrestling shifted my identity. I immediately went from maybe a disabled kid to the athlete, to the wrestler, to having scary friends, to having community, to having brotherhood, don't miss all this game. These are all things that make up a successful man or a successful woman. And
how do you get out of a rat race? How do you create wealth not only for yourself, but also for the generations to come after?
I am absolutely amazed with the quality of companies that we're getting exposure to.
We go on to Zoom calls with the innovators and the folks who are building new applications in metaverse, blockchain, artificial intelligence, decentralized finance.
What's going on, everybody? Thumbs up if you can see me.
We are focusing on early stage investment.
And the quality of people that we're getting exposure to, whether it be Dan Tapiero with 1RT, Jason Ma from Open, Yatsu from Animoca.
It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. It has far exceeded my expectations.
We are focusing on cutting edge technologies.
I view it now as the best investment I've ever made. The upside, I view, is unlimited.
And as a retail investor, I would never get this exposure anywhere else outside of Investment Club.
See you in the Investment Club.
I got more action with women. I was more active. I was getting beat up, but there's some sort of savage part of you that awakens when you're in a physical combat sport. And that led me to, we can go down the whole list. That led me to becoming a bodybuilder, a prankster, a speaker, but it all started with a kid who hated himself and wasn't going to take his life and would do anything it took to be loved.
Wow. My martial arts instructor once told me, he said, Brian, you learn a lot about yourself when you get into a fight. That's what he said. And I would say that's very true. And that's what you were doing with wrestling. Is there some analogy or metaphor here for the guy that, doesn't have certain limbs and decides to take more away to get to the next level? It seems like this is like something people can learn from, where, you're in this place that's really low. You might actually have to subtract something to get even further.
It's a beautiful, beautiful reference. And you and I talked about, because I asked you, how do you stay in shape? And what you've realized as you get older or get more wisdom is success isn't always addition. Success is actually subtraction. And for me, identifying the weakness, I needed to cut off one of the weaknesses, which happened to be an arm. But here's the question for those that are listening. Maybe it's not an arm like me, but what are the very things right now that you need to cut off that no longer serve you? And you know what it is. You know what it is. By the way, do you and I still have things? 100%.
Definitely.
You and I still have things that we need to subtract. And so just start there. And I would also say, for those that are listening, that maybe didn't grow up in the perfect childhood with the perfect parents and the perfect upbringing, you actually have the advantage because you're more resourceful than the guy who was fed everything. You are more resourceful, you have more adversity, you have more resilience, you have more edge than the guy who was born into wealth. You actually have an advantage, which is your struggle. You know what it's like to be a dog, you know what it's like to eat scraps, you know what it's like to, be poor. And so you actually have an advantage, which is your environment that sculpted you into someone who's resourceful. There's more edge there. So congratulations for the dogs out there. And good luck to the ones that have been fed everything, because the ones that have been fed everything, they got to keep themselves dangerous because everything tends to be easy if they were born into wealth. But shout out to the ones that are coming up from the gutter, because you have more of a dog in you than you think.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.